What's going on, everyone? So this year feels like the one year in which the Lakers have a real shot at winning an NBA championship. I do think after the 2020 year, going into that following year where they got Montrezl Harrell and they got Dennis Schroeder and stuff like that, I actually do think if Anthony Davis didn't get hurt, that they would have repeated. I genuinely do. They were, once again, before injuries and everything like that, they were the number one team. And, Schroeder, LeBron, and AD were plus 15 and a half as a three-man unit. And it was far and away the best three-man unit in the league. But Dennis Schroeder ends up getting sick, gets COVID, and then he was never the same coming back. There was a lot of questions about, is he having respiratory issues and all kinds of stuff. And then Anthony Davis ends up getting hurt, right? LeBron James was on one leg. There was a lot of questions of could they have gotten it done? Because even with all of the ailments, they were still up 2-1 against the Phoenix Suns, and they matched up much better against Milwaukee. And also, it looked like they were about to go up 3-1, and then Anthony Davis goes down, right? And it was just, it hurt. It was a shot to the stomach. But this year just feels like a year in which the Lakers, you're like, man, they have all this depth, all this talent. LeBron James and Anthony Davis, they'll be able to kind of coast. They'll still be their guys, but they won't have to do everything, right? Like the winning won't just fall solely on their shoulders this year. And you look at this roster and it's so talented. It's the closest thing that we have to a 2020 roster, right? Now that roster is proven and they won an NBA championship. This roster, I personally think front to back is actually deeper and they're bigger, but granted, they need to build the chemistry that 2020 roster had, and they also need to prove it as the 2020 roster had. And one of the things that the 2020 roster had that this team won't have, at least as of yet, are the Mamba jerseys. And now, look, the Mamba jerseys were obviously a memento to the tragedy that bestowed us and just the world with Kobe Bryant's passing. And this was a way to honor him. And they fulfilled that honorment by winning the NBA championship, right? And using these jerseys as a symbol. But beyond that, the jerseys were absolute fire. The jerseys were dope. And it meant something to that team, right? It meant something to LeBron when he wore that jersey. It meant something to Anthony Davis. It meant something to guys like Rondo and all that, right? Kuz, all of that, right? And so we're going into this year, which is the Kobe year, right? 2023, 2024 season, right? When the Lakers win the NBA championship this year, it'll be the Kobe year. And so I really do think that there's an argument to bring back the Mamba jerseys. And I'd love to see it, right? You have this year coming up, not this year, but 2024, going into 2024. They're also going to be unveiling the statue of Kobe Bryant. So that year is going to be a huge year, right? They're doing it 8/24, right? So, and they're doing it in order to show the love and appreciation of Kobe Bryant, what he did for that franchise, and, cement him all time with the stadium, right? The crypto arena. I almost called it Staples Center, but it's something that is going to be very heartfelt. It's going to be something that's going to be very emotional. It's going to be something that's very impactful. And I think it would be great to bring the Mamba jerseys back as a way to lead up into that and give this Lakers team that success, right? Last year's team, you probably didn't want that to happen, right? Even the year before that, you probably didn't want that to happen. But this year, you look at it and you're like, man, it just makes too much sense, right? Put the Lakers in the Mamba jerseys, let them go on this run. If they win the championship, you have this historically great story. But also it's going to, like it did in 2020, it's going to mean something to the players. It's going to add that little extra, the extra spice onto your stew that just puts it all together, and now you got this masterpiece, right? And you have what is at the end of the season is going to lead into the trophy and the celebration. Why not bring these jerseys, put them on the players, market this season as the Kobe Bryant year, and really push that and drive that and put it on the players. You don't think that that's going to light a bigger fire under LeBron James? You don't think that's going to light a bigger fire under Anthony Davis? You don't think it's going to, light a bigger fire amongst some of these other teams or some of these other players that really just admired, and Kobe was there, Jordan and all that stuff, right? Like, these young guys looked up to Kobe, right? You don't think that that might light a fire under D'Lo, right? Like, all of these things, like, I just think it makes too much sense. And it would bring some excitement to the fan base. It brings some excitement and joy to the, just Laker Nation as a whole. Obviously, it also puts more pressure on the Lakers, right? Because, if you don't win, it's like, well, but I don't think it's that big of a deal, because there was never more pressure on the Lakers than 2020, right? Because not only did you have the Mamba jerseys, but Kobe passed, literally. So it almost felt like you had to win. You had no choice. You had to win. You cannot lose this year with what just happened to Kobe Bryant, Lakers Nation. And the Lakers were able to deliver on that, right? And I think even if they were to lose, it would be more than that, right? It would be more than just whether they win or lose the championship. It's a symbol for what this year is. And that's a celebration and a, memorial to Kobe Bryant leading into the statue. And so I think however you slice it, I think that is something that makes a lot of sense. LeBron is also going back to number 23, right? So it's kind of like, almost like a blast from the past for the 2020 team. It's like, this is the modern version. We're young. We're hungry. LeBron James is ready to go. He looks good. We've talked about it here on the channel. It showed you the images and stuff like that. Anthony Davis is in the gym, working out, getting healthy. He just showed that he could play an entire playoff series healthy. You got all of this talent, all of this depth, all of this size. You got an extremely tough schedule, right? Sometimes those little things can make a huge impact. Something as simple as, like, here's the Kobe Bryant jerseys, all of a sudden really, they're special, right? Like, the Lakers hadn't lost the entire season up until, old Danny Green thing, but throughout the course of the season, they were undefeated up until that Miami, right? And then that was, I don't agree with the way people responded towards, Danny Green and sending death threats and all this. I think that's all just silly nonsense. And I think you're a clown if you're doing that kind of stuff. But I understand the frustration that people had, because it was like, you establish this, but it shows and goes into what the jerseys represented. It was that feeling of, we cannot lose in these jerseys. This is a symbol of Kobe Bryant. This is everything. We cannot let him down. And I feel like that could go a long way this season as well. And it ties into the Kobe event, right? It ties into everything. It's this just full stew of, like, here we go. I really, like, I was thinking about it, and I was just like, yeah, like, this is great. I've seen some people throw out the idea of, like, hey, they should bring back the Mamba jerseys and stuff. And I couldn't agree more. I really couldn't. I could not agree more. I genuinely think that having the Mamba jerseys would really just help with, like, the fans and the excitement and just this season, and you could have them wearing it in the tournament, and you could have them it would add so much to this season. It would be just such a symbol, for what's to come with Kobe Bryant. And then if you win the NBA championship, which, again, I personally believe the Lakers can and very likely will, right? There's not very many teams that are better than the Lakers. Lakers were just in the Western Conference Finals, and they're better this year than they were last year, even with the post-trade deadline team. And you have the core guys that were already together, that went through that grueling playoff stretch, that had the 8 games or whatever they played fully healthy going into the playoffs. So they already have some level of built-in chemistry, some level of built-in relationship and understanding. And I just think if you put that together, you add the Mamba jerseys, and then if the Lakers go on this run and win the chip, and then you have the parade, you have the celebration, you can have everybody in the Mamba jerseys at the parade and stuff like that. You can have all the fans and stuff. I mean, even from a business standpoint, it makes a world of sense, right? Like, even just remove all of the emotion and just whatever, right? Because the NBA is still a business. Lakers still are a business. But even from a business perspective, it's a great idea. It's a great marketing ploy. It's great, for sales and just generating money and stuff like that. Because again, you got to do that. So even just without the emotion involved, it would still make a world of sense for them to do that. But, you look at this Lakers team and you look at the rest of the league, and there's only like a handful of teams, if that you can see winning the NBA championship, right? Got Milwaukee and Boston, obviously, in the East. We'll see if Miami ends up getting Damian Lillard or not. And depending on how that goes, that could put them as like a third team in the East. But right now you have the Bucks and the Celtics. And then in the West, you have Denver and who? Like maybe you could add the Phoenix Suns if they come together. I mean, we don't even know. We won't know until they actually start playing. On paper, they look like a ridiculous team. On paper, it's like, give them the trophy now. But in the reality, it's like, we've seen a lot of super teams be put together that just didn't work out. And I don't know. It's kind of like, again, it's a thing where it's like, it's something I think would be really good for this season going into, the Kobe statue. But those are my thoughts and opinions. And as always, I pass the question on to you. Let me know yours down in the comments below. What do you think? Do you think, yes, they have to bring the Kobe jerseys back? Makes too much sense. Do you think, no, like leave it for that? It was, memento for that season. You don't want to tarnish that. You don't want to run the risk of losing and not winning the championship in those jerseys or something. Or do you think that maybe you make some other ones, right? Maybe you make some other Mamba jerseys that aren't, the ones from 2020. However you feel, whatever your thoughts are, I'd love to